Welcome back. With home prices near record highs and mortgage rates hovering around 6 or 7%, many families are giving up on the idea of buying altogether. But joining us to explore whether renting forever is a savvy modern money strategy or a long-term financial trap and what to do about it is Lawrence Sprung, founder of Midland Financial and the author of Financial Planning Made Personal. Good morning, Lawrence. How do you weigh the benefits and drawbacks of renting at this time?
Good morning. Yes, listen, everything has pros and cons, and renting definitely offers some significant flexibility, but there's a cost for that. Renters, have the ability to move easily if they have a new job or a lifestyle change. And of course, if you're a homeowner, renting can avoid those maintenance headaches. But really, that mobility comes without the long-term security of a fixed mortgage payment because, rents can and will change. So renting can make sense when owning is prohibitively expensive. And right now, the national home ownership rate is at about 65%. And renting allows you to avoid property tax, large down payments, major maintenance. And what you can do is with that savings, if you are capturing savings from renting over buying, you could deploy that money elsewhere. So there's a significant amount of flexibility there.
And what do you recommend people do if they want to deploy that money elsewhere at this point in time? I know there are many different options, but say they're only saving a small portion because it is people on lower incomes that are tending not to invest in their own homes.
Yeah, I think that you're seeing that across the board. The investment in homes is going down, even with, the younger generation, because they're moving around a little bit more. They're not, they're not like our parents and maybe even, definitely our grandparents, where they go to work for a company for 40 years in their local community and they live in the same house for the next 40 years as well. So, for those that are going to, allow themselves to, if there's a savings by renting over buying, the real value is going to come in by taking that difference and allocating it elsewhere, whether it's making an investment in your retirement plan, whether that's putting money outside in some kind of investment, adding it to an emergency fund should something come up, or even paying down debt. So if you're just using that extra cash to spend kind of frivolously because it's found money, then I think that's a little bit of a mistake.
And one that young people may be more likely to make. How many of the young people that you know and consult with have a retirement plan, and what do you advise for young people who don't have one?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, thankfully within our world, many of the young people do have a retirement plan, and we try to speak with as many young people as we can, also educating them on the importance of a retirement plan, because quite frankly, they're like their grandparents, they're not going to have a traditional pension where they went to work for that company for 40 years and then they're going to get a paycheck for the rest of their life. So it's really up to them to make sure that happens. And I think people get intimidated in a way, meaning that they think they don't have enough money to do that, and every little bit helps. So if your employer does not have a retirement plan, look at setting up an individual retirement account, for example. That's an easy way that you could set something up yourself and get started today.
And with the uncertainty in the housing market at this time, and yet considering the traditional wealth building role of owning a home, what do you recommend for people who really want to have some certainty in their retirement, considering that all investments are somewhat risky?
Yeah, listen, owning a home, I don't know that I know that we deem it the American dream, and it's been said, use that moniker for many, many years. I think we have to look at the world, and the world has changed quite a bit in the last 50 to 70 years. As I said earlier, it used to make a lot of sense. People would buy a home in the community they live in. They would do everything in that community, including working in that community for a very long time. Today's younger generation is a lot more mobile. They're not staying in locations for very long, sometimes 3 to 5 years or 5 to 7 years at a clip with an employer and in a location. And quite frankly, if you do the math around that, there's not a lot of equity building. There's not a lot of retirement planning capabilities there. So it really depends on what you want to do as a couple or as a family or even as an individual. I think the longer term you're going to stay in a house, the better opportunity you have to build wealth. But if you're somebody that's going to probably stay in a home for 5 to 7 years and move every 5 to 7 years, it may not be such a wealth building tool that you might be led to believe.
And rent itself is getting costly in many areas across the US. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, I mean, national rent prices are up 30% since 2019. And quite frankly, wages have not kept up. They've only grown by about 20% over that same period. And, long-term renters really face inflation without the hedge that the home equity provides. So, rents and home prices are rising faster than incomes in most counties. And that means long-term renting carries inflation risk. As you said earlier, there's risks with everything. And you have that risk of your housing costs may increase substantially without you building equity. And that's where you want to make sure that if your rent is under the cost of owning, that you're deploying that capital somewhere else.
And overarching all of this is the importance of getting great advice. So we appreciate you having you on with us this morning. Lawrence Sprung, good to speak with you as always.
Thank you.